Today we will be reading a chapter from My English Reader of D.A.V.Public School Class 4. Let us turn to page number 12. Before we begin the chapter, we find one question under which we have the photos of 4 famous sportspersons of India. According to the instruction, we will have to write the names of this personality. Now, what I have added for your further knowledge are some information about each of them and why they are famous. This will be an easy way for you to remember them. The first picture is of Narayan Karthikeyan. Now, who is he? He was the first Indian driver to compete in Formula One race. He is a race driver. The second picture we find is of P.T. Usha. P.T. Usha is one of India's greatest athletics, often called country's queen of track and field. Now let us go to the third picture. It is of Sunil Gavaskar. Now who is he? Sunil Gavaskar is an Indian cricket player who is considered one of the sport's greatest opening batsmen of all time. And the fourth one is of Vishwanathan Anand. He is an Indian chess grandmaster and former 5 times world chess champion. So these are 4 legendary figures of the sports world of India. Now in B2 we have a story. How different would your life have been if you were born in a different family, say in a different state or a different country? Read to find out what happened to Sunil Gavaskar when he got mixed up at birth. Now here is a question for you to think. What exactly would have happened if you were exchanged when you were a kid in the hospital or the place where you were born? In this section, we will read a story or an incident from the life of the greatest cricket player of all time, Sunil Gavaskar. So let us begin. Mix up at birth. I may never have become a cricketer, and this book would not have been written if my uncle, Mr. Narayan Mazuvekar, had not come into my life the day I was born. The story begins with a confession of Sunil Gavaskar, who says that he would have never become a cricketer, and the book that he is writing now for us to read would never had been written by him had not Mr. Narayan Mazuvekar, his uncle, came into his life on the day he was born. He was born on 10th of July 1949. It seems that Nan Kaka, as I call him, who had come to see me in the hospital on my first day in this world, noticed a little hole near the top of my earlobe. So, this is a continuation from the previous page. The day Sunil Gavaskar was born, his uncle had came to visit him in the hospital. And what did he notice? He noticed a small hole in Sunil Gavaskar's left earlobe. The next day, he came again and picked up the baby lying in the crib next to my mother. To his utter horror, he discovered that the baby did not have the hole on his left earlobe. So, the day Sunil Gavaskar was born, his uncle came to visit him, and he had noticed some physical marks on Sunil Gavaskar's body, that is, a hole on his left earlobe. And on the next day, he again came to visit the little boy. He was in the baby crib. He was lying in the baby crib, which was just next to his mother. His uncle picked him up from the baby crib. and he was shocked and he was in terrible fear. Why? Because he discovered the baby that he had just picked up did not have that hole on his left earlobe. What he feared was that he picked up an entirely different child, and that child was not Sunil Gavaskar. A frantic search was made, and I was located sleeping peacefully beside a fisherwoman, totally ignorant of the commotion I had caused. As soon as Sunil Gavaskar's uncle realized what had happened, he immediately informed everyone, and everyone started searching for him. Everyone was kind of in a shock because they realized the baby has been exchanged. In other words, Gavaskar was not with his mother. He is probably beside another lady who is not the one who gave birth to him. After a wild search, he was finally located. And where was he? He was sleeping peacefully beside a fisherwoman. And obviously he was a small kid that time. He was just born. So he was completely ignorant or unaware of the commotion, the kind of situation or the mess that had been created there, and he was sleeping peacefully. He was completely unaware of the disturbance that had occurred in the hospital, that he had caused. The mix-up, it appears, followed after the baby had been given their bath. Now everyone kind of guessed that this mix-up between the two babies had happened when they were each given a bath. I am grateful to my uncle for noticing the hole, for I have often wondered what would have happened if nature had not marked me out. Now, when Sunil Gavaskar later on heard this incident, what he felt was gratefulness towards his uncle. He also said, had not nature marked him with a special mark, probably no one would have noticed this mix-up between two babies. Perhaps I would have grown up to be a fisherman working somewhere along the west coast. Now he was thinking, if not the nature had given him the special mark, no one would have noticed the mix-up between the two babies, and probably the fisherwoman would have taken him home and brought him up as her own. And one day, just following the path of his family, he would have also become a fisherman of the west coast, somewhere of the west coast. And what about the baby who, for a spell, took my place? He immediately raises another question. Sunil Gavaskar would have become a fisherman had he not been noticed by his uncle. And he also asked another question. What would have happened to the baby who was sleeping beside her mother? I do not know if he is interested in cricket or whether he will ever read this book. He said since he is no more in touch with that particular person, he wondered whether this particular boy has any interest in cricket, whether this person watches cricket match or even discusses it. He also thinks whether that person will ever read this book that he had written. I can only hope that if he does, he will start taking a little more interest in Sunil Gavaskar. He finally ends this chapter saying that he hopes that if the person does read this book, he will start thinking about Sunil Gavaskar a little more. This is a very small story and a beautiful story, something from where we can learn a lesson. Since Sunil Gavaskar's uncle was a very keen observer, he was able to identify the mix-up that had taken place. And probably Sunil Gavaskar remained forever grateful to his uncle because the way he saved his life, and finally he became a legendary cricket player of India. Because according to Sunil Gavaskar, if he would have stayed with the family who were fishermen and who had fishermen and fisherwomen in their family, probably he would also become a fisherman somewhere in the west coast. Thank you. If you like this video and find this informative and useful for your child, then please like this video and subscribe my channel.